at the World Economic Forum at Davos. Apparently, it started out with a little bit of an issue, Air Force One having to turn around after it got out over the ocean and come back. Apparently, a small or minor electrical issue. So he went from that big, beautiful 747 to the smaller backup plane, which automatically, once he stepped on board, became Air Force One. He gave a speech. Boy, did he give a speech. How many of you have been watching the clips of President Trump and laughing? Oh, I loved it. As I said yesterday, he has not ruled out replacing the United Nations since we went off the air yesterday. Last night on television, we actually played a clip where he was asked, are you trying to replace the United Nations? Well, he wasn't saying a hard no or a hard yes. It was, well, it hasn't lived up to its potential. So now he goes to the meeting there in Davos, and he goes after windmills and solar panels and Agenda 21, sustainable development. He goes after the war on carbon and fossil fuels. He goes after all of their idea of shareholder capitalism. Everybody's got to have some equity, everybody's got to have some equity in the game. Really? How much money did you put into the game? But you see, they want to give the homeless people stock in your company. You owe even the homeless something, because if it wasn't for us, your business wouldn't be here. You didn't build that business. Remember that from Barack Hussein Obama? He went after NATO. He went after all of them, including what he called the stupid immigration policies. I mean, get your popcorn, watch the speech if you didn't see it. We'll be bringing you some clips today. Now, I'm excited. I agree with what he's talking about 100%. Thank you, President Trump. I told you guys, when he does good, I'm going to praise him. When he does things I don't like, I'm going to say, what's going on here, sir? But I must say, today's speech was fun to watch, and I agreed with so much of it. He had no problem insulting them right to their faces, even saying some of them on the front row right down here, they won't even look up. They're staring at the ground. They don't want to look me in the eye. It was classic Donald Trump, going from teleprompter to just ad lib. And the stage was kind of set yesterday with his Secretary of Commerce, Lupnick, saying that the WEF, World Economic Forum, were basically a bunch of dingalings, that they want to think they can do all of this with solar panels and windmills, and China's the one that makes the batteries. You guys can't even get the battery. You're going to have to be dependent on China. Why would you want to be dependent on people that are against you? Why would you not want to make alliances with people that are for you? So here's the great question today. You always like to serve it up with a little positive, praise where praise is worthy, but then we have to start asking questions. So Donald Trump is overturning the old world order. He's overturning the old world order. The question is now, what will be the replacement? Have we just gone from the Great Reset to the Trump reset? Can I say that again? Have we just gone from the Great Reset to the Trump reset? And does that Trump reset actually put in place the tech bros, more technology, transhumanism, technocracy? I have to ask these questions. That's our job, folks. I can offer up praise where I agree, and then where I don't understand fully where the direction is, I just have to ask questions. I'm not going to make full judgments today. We don't have enough information. So all we can do is say, this is wonderful. I agree with what he said here and here and here. Now, what is the replacement system going to be? Donald Trump is not part of the good old boy club. I think he's always kind of been on the outside and looked down on, much the way JFK was. Didn't end too well for JFK, did he? I don't think Donald Trump's been a big fan, I found out yesterday, of the United Nations, particularly when they wouldn't let him, I guess, have the contract to remodel, according to one well-placed journalist in Israel, who's apparently very close to Netanyahu. So this would be very typical of Donald Trump. You guys have snubbed me. You have treated me with disrespect. You treat my country with disrespect. You mock me. You applaud all of the horrible things that have happened to me during my first administration and then while I was out for 4 years. And we're coming back. for revenge. Now, I'm not saying that that's the answer. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But Donald Trump is known for the video clips of saying, when people pick a fight, you finish it. You get revenge. Is that what's involved here in part? I don't know. I'm just, again, asking questions. Now, I'm certainly not going to shed a tear for the United Nations and the globalists and the World Economic Forum. If he wants to destroy them and take out his anger on them, I say, have at it, Mr. President. Whether his motive is my motive, liberty, freedom, sovereignty, anti-globalism, which I think those fit with him, or whether he is rooted more in revenge, it doesn't matter to me in the end, as long as that system is destroyed. But the question is, as I said, what will it be replaced by? We talked yesterday and then last night with Aaron Levarco and Shahram Hadian about this Gaza International Board. That to me is fascinating because apparently he's going to be the chairman of the board, Donald Trump, and you can join for $1 billion. And we said, wait a minute, what if some people step forward who are multi-billionaires and say, I'll put up that $1 billion and sit on that board, and they go to the leadership of their country and say, I'm putting up the $1 billion, guys. I am going to be the spokesperson for our country. A lot of those countries are going to say, sounds good to us, because I'm guessing that those billionaires do a lot for their country and have a lot of sway. And now all of a sudden you have not just central bankers involved, not just politicians involved, you have billionaires. Now you're combining that big government and big business model that we've talked about, warned about for years as we've studied Revelation 17 and 18 together. Daniel. So what is this setting the stage for? We have to ask those questions even prophetically. We can't be dogmatic. There's a lot of information to gather and to watch, but we sure can ask questions and say, isn't this interesting? Where could this be going? Let's get some analysis today by Patrick Wood and by Trevor Loudon. Patrick Wood already has an article out at technocracy.news entitled, Looking Backwards and Forward. Did Trump just trigger the World Economic Forum's Great Reset? I think we're going to be going from calling it the Great Reset, as I said, to the Trump Reset. He even joked today, maybe we can find the clip, he even joked today about, the Gulf of America. Maybe we should have called it the Gulf of Trump. That sounds kind of good. We still have time to change that. I'm just joking. I'm not so sure. I think there's a little bit of truth in that joke there. But I don't care if he calls it the Gulf of Trump. I just like how he's rubbing their noses in the carpet here. Let's go to our guests, Patrick Wood and Trevor Loudon. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. Oh, that was a great response by Trevor. Boy, he has never been so profound. Great response, Trevor. We'll get him back. I thought he'd become a computer for a moment there. Let's go to Patrick. Patrick, the floor is all yours. You already have an article out. Tell us about it. And we got to get your mic unmuted. We got to get your mic unmuted. Boy, we're having a great day here.
It is.
There you go. There you
Teams.
are.
There we go. We have to wait a little bit, I think, to assess what just happened. Mm-hmm. But the effect of it at this point. In the meantime, we can all just get in line with his speech, because I would have said the same thing if I was invited there. I would exactly say the same stuff. But at this point, yes, there's the Great Reset is upon us, no doubt. All of this baggage that got us here in the first place, like the United Nations and the Green New Deal and all that, the windmills and all that nonsense, stakeholder capitalism, all that stuff. That's how technocracy got launched in the first place. We know this has been a concerted plan, started way back in the 1970s. And we saw the formation of Agenda 21, for instance, at the United Nations, the 2030 Agenda, the new urban agenda after that, and everything sustainable development has all been about disrupting capitalism and free market economics, period, in the subject. So at this point, we've seen the leaves peeled off of this whole narrative about the United Nations, et cetera, over several months at this point. So this is the coup de grace at this point. Trump's speech today is going to shake up the world big time, and we have to assess now what will they take it to heart or not. I think they will. And I
think they will too. And he kind of scared them too, because he's talking about all the great weapons we have, and that in Venezuela, the weapons we have, he says, they weren't even able to fire a shot. He says that none of our people got injured, and that their guns wouldn't work. They weren't able to pull the trigger. I don't know if we have that clip either, but at this point, he's probably scaring some of these people. Now, he has backed away from taking Greenland. I guess he's now saying military option. And that, of course, that's the art of the deal. Basically, it goes from, I'm going to break your kneecaps to, I'll take money and we'll work a deal. I mean, it's basically, here's $700 billion, or I break your proverbial national kneecaps, which we'll take the money. So, he always starts out with the worst situation and then negotiates down to what it finally is. I guess that's how he always starts with the art of the deal. And now he's saying no military action. But I'm thinking a lot of them are afraid of him after watching whatever technology we have that we use on Venezuela, right?
Yes, he massaged them to death with he did multiple times along the way. And he's lambasting Europe in general, because we bailed them out of World War II in the first place. And Denmark,
he said you guys would be speaking German and some Japanese if it wasn't for us.
I know, and he's right, probably. But Denmark, poor little Denmark, beautiful country. It really is a beautiful country, I think. It has a lot of beautiful people. It got invaded from the south, but at this point, he said, you lasted 6 days in World War II before you folded to the Nazis. and we came and bailed you out of that. And here you are, a free country today. You've enjoyed all these benefits along the way. We want payback, basically. Mm-hmm. And, he said, this probably rightly so. The United States had possession of Greenland in the first place after World War II. They gave it back to Denmark. They could have held on to it at that point, but they gave it back to Denmark.
We always give away the good stuff.
I know. So
the canal, Panama Canal, all these things we give away, we shouldn't be giving away. He even had a couple swipes at the folks up in Minnesota. He said, who knew that those Somalis had an IQ that high? We never thought those Somalis had an IQ that high, but apparently it's a little bit higher than we thought, because they were able to carry out one of the biggest frauds. I mean, he took swipes at everybody, even bringing in Minnesota, and of course the 2020 election, that it's rigged. We'll be back with more, including Trevor Loudon. Don't go away. What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. We're going to be joined by Trevor, but you got to hear this comment. I guess Mark Carney, the banker, the globalist, was going after the president yesterday. I don't know, why would you do that when you know the man is showing up the next day and going to have have the microphone, the bully pulpit? Why would you set yourself up like that? Wouldn't you wait till he leaves? Do it on the backside, not the front side. Well, apparently President Trump knew, because here was his response.
All we want from Denmark for national and international security and to keep our very energetic and dangerous potential enemies at bay is this land on which we're going to build the greatest golden dome ever built. We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. What we did for Israel was amazing, but that's nothing compared to what we have planned for the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. We are going to build a dome like no other. We did it for Israel.
You know, it's interesting. He said, I told Bibi, stop taking credit for the Iron Dome. We built that. Now I'm starting to understand, if those facts are true, I'm starting to understand a little bit more why now President Trump feels he has the right to tell Israel at times what they can and cannot do based on his desires, because I think he feels, rightfully or not, he feels that their existence has largely been up to the U.S. I think we were the first nation to recognize them as a nation, but also our defense of them. If, again, it's not only the technology that they have, that we have, but the shared technology. But apparently, we have done an awful lot when it comes to the Iron Dome. Now, we're going to have to fact check some of that. But if that's the truth, you could see why he steps in and says, look, we're providing you with all these armaments you need to keep that Iron Dome working. Plus, it's our technology, so quit taking credit for our technology. He went on to say that in the speech. Joining me now with a response to all of this is Trevor Loudon. Trevor, what do you make of this today out of the World Economic Forum?
Well, look, like you, Brandon, I'm very pleased to see Trump trashing the United Nations and the WEF. But like you, it's the devil is in the details what comes next. And any council that replaces the United Nations that has Russia or China on is immediately disastrous. And you got to understand, the WEF and the United Nations are both puppets of the Russians and the Chinese. So we're going to replace one puppet with a more concentrated, powerful puppet. How is this a good thing? You know, I'm all for getting rid of the United Nations. I've campaigned against it my entire political life. But an international council of 10 countries, including Russia and China, going to basically rule the world. You know, I don't think that's healthy in any way.
Is it down to 10? Have they figured the figure is 10 yet?
That's the figure I have seen mentioned, and it may be more. I think there's going to be like a 10 in a council, like an expanded Security Council in the United Nations.
Can someone
which
Google
Russia
that?
and China are both part of and have veto power. So I'm very leery of this part of the operation.
Yeah, me too, Trevor. Can someone Google that, or whatever you guys, Yahoo that, or whatever it is you guys do in there? Is the initial council going to be 10? Because if that is the case, we're right over the target now as far as, you know, prospective Bible prophecy is concerned. Wow. Okay, now here is President Trump on Europe. Listen to this.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable.
Not even recognizable, as we get a
anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody, and say, I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
Well, you could say that for Minnesota. Last time I was in Minnesota, I would say the same thing. I did not recognize it. And of course, I don't know, guys, if you can pull out some of the clips of what he said about Minnesota, but he sure got into Minnesota on an international stage. Here he is on the 2020 election being stolen.
Thousands of miles away, separated by a giant ocean. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. Can't have rigged elections.
Wow. Breaking news. Now we're hearing people will be prosecuted. We're also hearing today, Trevor, that there have been federal indictments for the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, the governor of Minnesota, at least those two, if not Ilhan Omar. I think she's being investigated. How did this woman come here with nothing and end up worth $30 million, according to reports? In fact, I don't know if you guys can find it in the control room. I think President Trump said today, if we could knock out 50% of the fraud in our federal budget, we could balance the budget. How about if we knock out the fraud, that we eliminate then the federal income tax? Can we please be done with this oppressive federal income tax by knocking out the fraud? Look, the American people, the entrepreneurs, the taxpayers, they deserve a massive, massive rebate for all we have paid in and what we have not received. Okay, if you pay somebody something and you don't receive what you're supposed to receive in return, that's fraud. Okay, they have been involved in a Ponzi scheme, fraud. They have bankrupted Social Security. They have stolen from us through inflation, which is a hidden tax. This is all a fraudulent Ponzi scheme, and it's all gone to enrich other people. And the president should sign an executive order immediately eliminating all federal income tax, period. Those of us who are adults in this audience should never have to pay another penny in federal income tax, if for no other reason than to be reimbursed for the money that we gave that never went to the services and the military and the national security and the Social Security funds and all the things we were told, but was squandered to NGOs and criminals and politicians. Trevor?
Yeah, look, I fully agree with that, Brandon. I would love to see real indictments against Keith Ellison and Tim Waltz and others in Minnesota. They've been running that like a little communist fiefdom and Ponzi scheme for a long time. And this is all good, but we also got to consider, one of the main headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is behind these threats around the world, is Qatar. And President Trump is making deals with Qatar. So, I want consistency here. Yeah, look, go after the Muslim Brotherhood here. Shut it down. Shut down the fraud. Balance the budget with the fraud, absolutely. But stop allowing Qatar to buy our universities and our conservative commentators. It's got to work both ways here. And then Trump's doing great things on one front and selling it out on the other.
Well, you said it. Well said. Here's the rest of that clip.
You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections, and a fair media. The media is terrible. It's very crooked. It's very biased, terrible. But someday it'll straighten out because it's losing all credibility. Think of it. When I win in a landslide, a giant landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything, and they only get negative press.
Well, and I would say, Mr. President, then stop hoarding Fox News. I mean, your daughter-in-law is over there at Fox News, which was one of the first networks to call the 2020 election against you. Quit golfing with Brett Baer. Your thoughts on that, Patrick?
Well, you got it. Absolutely. There's a certain amount of doublespeak, speaking out of both sides of your mouth, and we have to reconcile that at some point. Today, however, is kind of a cause for looking
celebration
at the bright side, right? And what he said today, we can all cheer. However, we're going to analyze the other side of his mouth, and I think we're going to find that there's another story.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if the audience notices where Trevor is broadcasting from today. Let's go to a full screen. I'm sorry, Patrick. I'll explain to the radio audience. I don't know if any of you recognize where Patrick is broadcasting from today. Do any of you recognize that
I do.
Backdrop? Okay,
I'm cringing.
Let me just tell you where Patrick is broadcasting from, because the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, globalism as we know it is done. Trump is announcing this, and maybe the replacement of the United Nations. And so Patrick now has placed himself on the floor of the United Nations and is broadcasting from the platform of the UN. That is the green brick stone wall behind him at the UN. So apparently the Trump administration has already taken over the United Nations, and the first press pass for broadcasting from there has gone to Patrick Wood with his green stone background behind him. Did you recognize that for that?
Oh, yes, I did.
Did you wonder what was going on when that went up there? Patrick? Did we just lose Patrick? Did you wonder what was going on, Patrick?
No, not at all. I recognize that wall absolutely. From the first time I saw it.
Yeah. Did you wonder why we put it behind you?
Maybe Logan has just done a trick on me.
Yeah.
Put me there.
When I saw the opportunity, I said, put the UN wall. I sent Logan a picture of the UN wall. I said, put that behind him, because I think it fits with the programming, because the United Nations and globalism as we know it has just been overthrown. So let's give the green stone wall of the UN behind Patrick. So there you go.
Let's just take it over for press conferences for our side now.
There you go. There you go. President Trump says he wants to start up insane asylums again to get rid of all the mentally deranged people that are. And it is sad that so many mentally deranged people are on the streets living under bridges. And we just saw a mentally deranged man who was found guilty of shooting at cars and people. They let him go on insanity, and he just shot and killed 3 people in Florida. I'm just speaking off the cuff here. No, I don't know of a more appropriate place than to take the United Nations, remove all the insane people from there, send them to Babylon, 58 miles south of Baghdad. Let's get that going down there. And take the current insane asylum of the UN and just put real, troubled people there. It would be perfect, because it's already been used as an insane asylum for years anyway. So Trump is out today, literally, folks, I'm not joking, calling for the reinstitution of insane asylums because of all these criminals that are murdering people who have mental conditions. So there you go. Here is President Trump telling the world, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German and Japanese.
Called in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now, you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it.
Yep. And he wants it back for an Iron Dome. I'm all about that. I want to ask Trevor, we come back, what do you think about the idea of an Iron Dome? A lot has been said about Greenland, and he's saying, look, it has to do with national security with Russia and China. I want to get Trevor's response to that right after the break. More clips by our president at Davos today, taking on the globalists, from the Great Reset to the Trump Reset. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview YouTube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview YouTube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll
but equally
down
important,
until you locate the Worldview YouTube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview YouTube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview YouTube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Food if it's available. All right, welcome back. Glad you are with us. Worldview Radio website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewtube.com. Be sure to stay tuned at 2 o'clock here on the VCY America Radio Network for Jim Schneider and Crosstalk on over 100 outlets nationwide. America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s. And if you don't have a terrestrial station of VCY in your market, you can jump off of Worldview YouTube. That's fine with us. We're all team players here. And head over to vcy.org and listen, vcy.org. All right, guys. Trevor, his website is trevorloudon.com, trevorloudon.com. Patrick is technocracy.news, technocracy.news. Trevor, I love the idea of a Iron Dome, and apparently Denmark is very crucial in this. And some say, well, maybe it's the minerals or whatnot there in Denmark. Maybe that might be the icing on the cake, but I tend to think it has more to do with military. And he particularly keeps mentioning Russia and China. Now, I've seen some reports, some so-called experts in the military of other countries are saying, well, this is not really true. There are no Chinese or Russian subs running around in there. I don't think I really trust them because a lot of these people don't like America or Trump. So what are your thoughts? Have you researched it? Is this indeed a major national security play by President Trump to take Denmark? And is it related to the Iron Dome?
To take Greenland, you mean?
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah. Look, I'm all about defending it. I think Greenland would be indispensable for that. But I think Trump could have done it without the aggressive posture. I think the real danger we have here is that you got a lot of Curtis Yarvin devotees in the government around Trump. And they believe in a world run by technocracies, like a council of billionaires type of thing. And they also believe that America should have the Western Hemisphere, Russia should have all of Europe, and China should have Asia, and the rest of the world divided up into these three spheres of influence. So there's a real potential here for a great positive thing of America reasserting its power, defending itself, and allying with the good guys around the world, or there's a potential to basically destroy NATO, enabling Russia to take full control of Europe and basically abandoning Taiwan and Japan and South Korea, etc., to the Chinese. There's two competing schools of thought here, and it could go either way. But what gives me the greatest cause for concern are the number of people around Trump who follow these philosophies of Curtis Yarvin, who is basically an Americanized version of the Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin, who's all about multipolarity and diminishing America's role in the world and creating civil war and chaos in our country. So I'm very torn on this, Brandon. I'm very loving the rhetoric. I'm loving standing up for America and an Iron Dome, but I'm also failing to see the benefits of casting Europe adrift and, basically pushing Canada into the arms of China and Australia into the arms of China, all of which Trump has done with his rhetoric.
I think that's very wise. And yes, while we're celebratory in some sense, I think Patrick and I are in 100% agreement with you. I did ask about some research on the Iron Dome. Danny, one of our listeners, went and did that. The primary developer is Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. That's Israeli. Major partner is the Israel Aerospace Industries. Government sponsor is Israel's Ministry of Defense. And then a key figure involved was a Brigadier General Daniel Gold. So it looks like that was indeed an Israeli technology. So I don't know what President Trump's referring to. I can only assume he may be referring to all the armaments that they needed to continually be resupplied with. Maybe that's what he's referring to. I don't know. But there we go. Thank you, Danny, for helping us do a little fact checking there on the president. Okay, now I want to go to something that I think is right in keeping with this conversation. Where is this all going? Now, I don't know, Patrick, where you stand on any time you've spent watching what's going on with ICE. I'm all for getting 7,000 criminals, gang members, MS-13, Tren de Aragua. I'm all for getting these people out of the U.S., 100%. I don't believe all the reports or a vast majority of any of the reports I hear from the media, okay, when it comes to ICE and whatnot. I think that lady that drove over that ICE officer, it's sad, but, you hit your gas and go toward an officer. This is, what happens. Now, with that being said, however, I know of a property owner here in the Mid-South that had a contractor in one of his properties when it was being turned over from one tenant to another tenant. And apparently one of the contractors in there had someone working in that house painting. And the individual, I don't know if they had a phone or what they had, but whatever it was, they were able to be tracked. And someone showed up wearing vests and looked like police gear, and the neighbors took pictures, but the individual was not wearing anything that said ICE. It looked like they were bounty hunters, that the feds have hired bounty hunters, okay? And this individual, 2 or 3 of them, show up at this man's rental property where someone is in there painting that was working for the main contractor. And the individual that owned it didn't even know that person was in there. Didn't even know, it wouldn't have been in favor of that person being in there, but they hired a company, a contractor, go in and paint and get ready for his next tenant. And somebody was in there working, painting. And the next thing, the neighbors are taking pictures where this group has taken, the steel devices, battering rams, and busted down the steel door and broken the door to get in there and get to this individual. And they didn't leave any notice as to who they were. Here's our number. We've damaged the property, and this is who we are. We did this. And it cost that homeowner over $1,000 to repair the property. And the individual's like, wait, did they have a search warrant to come on to the property? I didn't even know this contractor had put this person in there painting. I don't know what that was all about, said the homeowner. But they don't want their property destroyed. No search warrant. No notice left saying, here's who we are. We did this. And then I hear today, and I'm hearing that there are bounty hunters out there rounding these people up and pulling over Americans. And today I did watch, and I know about Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. I used to live in the Twin Cities. Brooklyn Park Evangelical Free Church would go and speak and I did a concert for them the day before Thanksgiving one year. I know that church. They would work with us with our outdoor hymn sing. I know people that have served on the Brooklyn Park Police Department. I have no reason to think that this man who is giving an interview before WCCO, which is the CBS affiliate, and KARE 11, which is the NBC affiliate in the Twin Cities, is being dishonest at what he's saying. And when I saw this report today, I thought this is exactly the kind of thing even people that support Trump don't want to be hearing. This is not the kind of garbage that needs to be going on. It's a bad PR move. Destroying people's property, coming onto their property without warrants, damaging property, and then pulling over U.S. citizens and grilling them like we live in Nazi Germany. Oops, person they did it to happened to be a cop. Listen to this.
Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were.
Now, I have no reason not to believe his story, his body language, his eyes, his speech pattern. I have no reason to doubt what he's saying here. And I am fully in favor, and I've been on the record for years, that we need to deal with this, all these illegals in here, right? But this kind of thing is becoming a pattern that I'm hearing. And if we're paying yahoos, and by the way, I just read the other day and saw a video of a guy, a cop in Arkansas, pulling over an old man in his 80s, cussing at him, dropping cuss words left and right to this gentleman who didn't even realize he'd done something wrong with a traffic out in a country road. Turned out after he was dropped all kinds of curse words on him, called him names, this 80-year-old man, cuffed him and put him in the squad car. Turned out the daughter finally got on the phone and informed the cop that he'd had 3 strokes and is at the beginnings of like Alzheimer's. That cop was fired. Now, if the report is true, he got picked up by another police department in Arkansas. I can tell you right now from cops I know, they tell you that we're scraping the bottom of the barrel and one bad cop gets passed around to another agency. It's a hot potato. They get rid of them as fast as they can and pass them off to who will ever take them. And this is what happens when you don't pay people well and you hire from the bottom of the barrel. And a lot of these people, I'm afraid, that are going around acting as bounty hunters are some of those kind of people. And this is not what we want. And I think, Patrick, in my opinion, I believe what's happening here is deliberate bad PR and chaos on purpose. And I bet President Trump doesn't even realize these things. And I believe here's going to be the solution for the tech pros. Americans, even supporters of President Trump, are sick and tired of these kind of stories. They're sick and tired of it. We don't live in that kind of country where we pull over Americans and ask for your papers and harass them and break into homes without search warrants of private property and damage it, and then don't pay for that private property of that American. We just happen to have a contractor in there who hired a subcontractor he didn't even know was in the building, in the house. And here's the solution. Biometrics, chipping, digital ID. Create a crisis and then offer up the solution. That's what I warned about in a whole show from ID 2020 from the UN in early 2020. I think this is what's happening. I think even some of the Trump supporters are going to finally have so much of this that are sick of it that they're willing to succumb to some of these things to get back to normal. What are your thoughts, Patrick?
I think that makes sense to me. Just recently I saw that the head of DHS, Homeland Security, said that their officers now can demand papers from citizens to prove that they're citizens. This has never been happened. It never happened in the history of our country, where you have to prove your citizenship on demand when you're on the street. This is crazy. This came from the top, not from the bottom.
Well, it's bad PR. It's bad precedent. It's bad law. I'll get Trevor's response in a few more clips on the other side of this break. TrevorLoudon.com, Technocracy.news, us, WorldviewTube.com. We'll be right back. Go to WorldviewTalk.com. Get your satellite phone like I have, because you know what? China is in on our power grid. That is a matter of proven fact. If you want to have communications with your loved ones, your family, your children, maybe your spouse travels, maybe you have a child away at college, you want communication should the grid go down. That's why you need a satellite phone, worldviewtalk.com. But look what else they have. They also have solar generators. I have one of their solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400, a solar generator. So I can, of course, charge my satellite phone. I can run my coffee pot. I can run my whole house if I want to. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com, or use that number, 1-866-738-3224. They have very friendly operators that will explain to you their products, but you can explain to them what it is you're desiring to acquire. How much electricity are you wanting to generate with this solar generator? Well, they'll tell you what size you need. WorldviewTalk.com or 1-866-738-3224. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Trevor, what do you make of what I just played, what I laid out, and how I think the chaos is being created to get even Trump supporters to go where they otherwise would never go, to get back to the normal?
Well, I think you're right talking about some of the people that are being recruited. It's like school districts passing pedophiles on from one district to another. We know that happens all the time. So, but I think, see, the real way to do this, look, you need raids, you need going to factories, you need that stuff, you need to take down gang headquarters. But the way the real deportation is going to happen is nationwide E-Verify. And when President Trump introduces that, if he will, where every employer can get fined if they knowingly employ an illegal immigrant or don't check their status, that will drive tens of millions out of the country by themselves without the need for raids and raiding schools and the kind of incidents we had in Minnesota. So, but, that comes with an economic cost, and it comes with, there are farmers and factory owners who continually lobby Trump to make sure that doesn't happen. So, this is problematic because every incident, every woman that gets killed is going to be played every day up to the election. I think if the president is really serious about driving the numbers out of the country that need to go, and that's 20 or 30 million people, he has got to get very serious about E-Verify. Until I see that happen, we are just going to have these problematic incidents, and it's going to be not fast enough to do the job, and it's going to have a lot of political blowback.
There you go. There you go. That's where I was going next. The midterms. It is going to have a lot of political blowback. Let's go to.
It's already problematic enough. We can't have the Democrats taking back the House. We cannot do that. It's a suicide trip for the country.
Well, that, and we're setting a precedent that when now the Democrat Marxists want to pull us over, where are your papers? Hey, you guys had no problem when President Trump was doing it. We cannot. We have to. Yeah. We can't do it. We can't play that game. Okay.
Yeah, now, we have to play by the rules, but the problem is we're not using the most effective rules. We're not using E-Verify. Why are we not using that?
Very good question. Here is President Trump, speaking of politics. I think J.D. Vance will not be the Republican nominee. I think it's right now headed toward Marco Rubio. Listen to this.
COVID. I used to call it the China virus, but he said, do you think you could use a different name? And I decided to do that because why should we have a problem over that? But I would do that, and they were.
You're a true diplomat, huh?
I became a diplomat for the first time. Well, who taught me that? Marco Rubio. He said, let me teach you about diplomacy. Hey, any guy that gets approved by 100% of the votes, think of it, he got liberal Democrats and radical right Republicans to approve him. He's the only one. The next one was lost 45 votes, right? But he got all 100 votes voting for him. And at first I wasn't happy about it. I said, wait a minute.
He's saying that he's learning diplomacy from Marco Rubio, Patrick. I don't trust J.D. Vance one bit. He's a tech bro guy. I don't like what he's said about President Trump in the past. We can disagree with President Trump, but the things he has said were so off the radar, off the reservation. He should have never been considered. But I think he's there because of Don Jr. and because of Tucker Carlson. So I think that's who's been visiting with him at the White House a lot is Tucker visiting with Vance. It looks like Vance has basically been put to the child's table at the Christmas dinner card table, and Marco Rubio is in the room for everything. Your thoughts?
It seems that way. That when Cuba falls, and it will, I think, finally, they're without Venezuela, they have no leg to stand on at this point. So if Cuba falls, you'll see Marco Rubio being repatriated to Cuba to be their prime minister.
Fascinating. Here is President Trump on Somalis in Minnesota. He brought that up quite a bit.
Somalian bandits. Can you believe that Somalian? They turned out to be higher IQ than we thought. I always say these are low IQ people. How did they go into Minnesota and steal all that money? And we have, they're pirates. They're good pirates, right? But we shoot them out of the water just like we shoot the drug boats out. They're not pirating too many boats lately, do you notice? When they go out into those boats, they want to take over $1.5 billion tanker loaded up with oil. And they say, we're going to blow up your boat. They have powerful weapons. You hit the side of the boat, you blow the whole thing up.
All right. So even getting into the voter fraud, and now we got indictments, I guess, coming down, or something coming down in Minnesota against those political forces. So respond to that, please, Trevor.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think they can't come fast enough. We need to clean that fraud out there. But also, just getting back to Marco Rubio and Vance, J.D. Vance is a fan of Curtis Yarvin, the person I've been complaining about, the philosopher, and Tucker Carlson, who's a very pro-Russia, very anti-Israel guy, also a Yarvin type guy, got J.D. Vance in that position. So I concur. I do not want J.D. Vance anywhere near the Republican nomination in the next cycle.
And I guess you probably agree with that too, do you not, Patrick?
I would, yeah. I think he's the wrong guy that we want to have, but nevertheless, he's a devotee to Peter Thiel, and he owes everything in his career to Peter Thiel.
Mm.
Yeah, and Thiel is another Yarvinite.
Exactly.
And here's the headline from American Greatness: Walz, Ellison, Frey, their offices have been served with grand jury subpoenas. That's what it is. That's the mayor of Minneapolis, that's the attorney general of Minnesota, and that's the governor of Minnesota. Wow. Well, guys, you're doing a great job, and I want to thank you for being here. TrevorLoudon.com, TrevorLoudon.com, and Technocracy.news, Technocracy.news. Hold right there, gentlemen. We'll call it a day right here, and coming up next is Jim Schneider with VCY America and Crosstalk at vcy.org, vcy.org. I'll be back tonight with Tommy Robinson out of Great Britain. Tommy Robinson. I've also got on Gordon Chang. I got on a big lineup tonight on Brandon House Live at worldviewtube.com. All right. And as always, thank you for your support at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. May God save America. Take care. And we're back on WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview YouTube here. Let's see. Do we have any other good clips we should respond to real fast? I guess he's talking about fraud. The failing governor of California, rampant with fraud, watches from the corner chair as POTUS delivers a true masterclass in Davos. Embarrassing. Let's see. What else do we have here? Now he's talking to the reporters. Here we go. Look at this. We'll have the guys respond to this. Listen, here's Trump talking to the supporters at Davos.
Like Europe and the UK, sir. Why?
No, I'm not, but they have to change their ways or they're going to...
Why? Trade with your allies makes no sense.
Between immigration and energy, if they don't change, bad things will happen to them.
All right. He's really going after their energy. It's just talking about how dumb they are. He's going after Agenda 21, the whole 9 yards, Patrick.
Yes, indeed. This whole business of energy in the first place was to break down the fabric of society in the first place. Mm-hmm. And now that technocracy is on the scene with the takeover in Washington, D.C. especially, there's no need for this anymore. There's no need for it. Now they've pivoted. Oh, we need lots of energy now. We need oil. We need coal. We need natural gas. And they're pulling up all the stops at that point and saying, forget all this stuff. We're going to go to another page. And I think this new page will be based on not the old America that we knew, but based on technocracy. They're the only ones that are driving this energy bonanza, if you will, in the United States.
Mm. And then here is the Secretary of the Treasury making a very interesting comment. Listen to this.
I think it's very, very ironic that Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that.
Now, that's interesting that he mentions Alex Soros, but didn't Scott Bessent, the head of the Treasury, didn't he come from working with George Soros?
Yes, indeed, he did.
So why would he make that comment?
I know this is you have to.
You know why? You know why, Patrick? Because they don't count on talk show hosts like you and me knowing the facts, right? They think.
I know.
You know how many people are playing that today, going, "Oh."
Yeah.
And the hosts are not saying, wait a minute, didn't you come from working with George Soros, Alex's father, right?
Exactly. Bessent's career could not have been launched in the first place in finance if it weren't for George Soros. There's no way he would be where he is today because he was working for Soros even back in the 90s. Crazy.
I think in part what that shows you is that these folks count on the average voter just buying whatever slogan and line they want to throw out and not having enough knowledge to be able to call them out with their hypocrisy like we just did. And I don't know why Scott Bessent there would want to mention Gavin Newsom reminds him of some character combined with Sparkle Ken. I think he said referring to the Ken doll, right? Sparkle Ken. I mean, why would he want to go there? Isn't Scott Bessent himself,
Yeah, no. Exactly.
Talk about sparkles. Isn't he? Is he not? Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Is he not? Yeah, homosexual? I can say the word homosexual in the air. I know, guys. I just don't like bringing people's personal lives too much into the topic. But isn't he? Isn't he? So why are we making fun of Gavin Newsom and Sparkling Ken? I mean, the whole thing was like, why would you even say this? It's loaded up with hypocrisy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Here is Logan's like, you can say the word homosexual in the air. I know we can. I don't like dragging people's private lives into the public arena. But you really have no choice sometime. All right, here we go. And by the way, which is why you never see us a lot of the times reporting on the latest scandal, this and that. We're not tabloids. We try to deal with the public facing issues of the day. But this, of course, is an issue we have to talk about. I got to get one more in here real quick. President Trump, here we go.
But equally importantly, we're cracking down on more than $19 billion in fraud that was stolen by Somalian bandits. Can you believe that they turned out?
There you go. I got to get that one in there again. All right. He said we got rid of the fraud. We could probably balance the budget. Fascinating. Brand new article by Patrick Wood at technocracy.news. Check it out. Technocracy.news. Patrick Wood. Thank you, guys. May God save America. Take care.